All right, hello everyone. I think we're live now. Just let me adjust some volumes here so we don't get a playback. But welcome everyone. Glad to see if you're watching now or you're watching later on the replay. I'm glad to have everybody here. Quick advisory. We're going to be starting this new little 10 by 10 scene here. As you can tell, I've already gridded it out and got some basic flow into where we're going to be painting this afternoon. In case you're wondering, the particular panel I'm using is a 10 by 10 piece of MDS board, rather. I cut these myself, then I stain them up so I can have the natural neutral tone on the canvas itself. Just helps with the color mixing and helps to get the tonal value as we're painting along. But these are real cheap. Buy them at the local hardware store. Cut them up the size I want, and they make good painting practices or real pieces by themselves. So glad to have everybody here, and let's get started. Before we get started on the actual painting, let me show you what I'm dealing with here today. The colors we got. Obviously, hopefully you'll be able to see this. We've got titanium white on the side here. I've got basically two of every color except green. The only green we're going to be using today is the Viridian green. And then I've got ultramarine blue. I've got Prussian blue. And as far as our yellows go, I've got a yellow ochre. I've got a lemon yellow. And then our reds are alizarin crimson and a cad red light or a Windsor red. I like to use the non-cadmium colors, so we got a Windsor red here, almost the same color as the cad red light. So let's go ahead and dig into this painting. If you're new to the channel, feel free to throw out any questions. I like to answer questions as long as we go along. Make sure you just throw it in the chat there, and as I'm painting, we'll get to it as they come up. But with this particular scene, I know you can't see what I'm seeing as far as the reference goes, but it's a wave scene. You can see some of the general direction of our wave here. We're going to have down this area shape into the wave. We have the top of the wave here, and then just a general neutral background here will be our starting place for today. What I generally like to do on any of my paintings, I'll start from the furthest point and then work my way forward. On the previous painting I started with the wave first, but we're going to start with this back area. I'm just using a series of different dagger brushes today. I got a little bit larger one and a little bit shorter one. These are a sable type brush. I like a smoother brush rather than a bristle brush. That's just my style. I know many oil painters use bristle brushes, but I've always used the sable style, and that's what I'm going to continue to use. So let's go ahead and get ourselves our first color. Generally, when we're dealing with color mixes on this block-in phase, I'll grab a neutral or mid-tone to the area. We'll paint the whole thing in that mid-tone area, and then as we progress through the modeling and the detail phases, then we can come in and add the actual colors to the wave and to the back areas. But to start off here, we're going to use a neutral or that mid color, and that is going to be a sort of a bluish greenish color. We'll go ahead and plug in that color now. Let's see. So we're going to start with a little bit of that Viridian rather. Forgot to mention that we got our only medium that we're going to be using today on the corner here, and that's a liquid original. So we got a little bit of Viridian here. We're going to take some of our ultramarine blue, mix it up with that Viridian, and take a little bit of white. We're shooting for a color along this lines. It's going to be a mid-tone color. We're not looking for specific color with this initial pass, more so just a base color that we can build upon as we go along. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but it does have to be that mid-tone area that you can add to a little later on. Now in our scene, this is in the background, so I'll plug in just a dash of this Windsor red just to kind of neutralize that color, desaturate it a little bit. I don't want it to be too bright since it is in the background. That's getting to be where we want it to be. You're going to see me clicking back and forward from my computer screen off to the right there as I pull up the different references so we can take a look at it. So kind of ignore that if you see that flashing around there. But all right, let's dig in and let's start here. So we're going to take this color and we're just going to baseline it across the top until we can cover this whole area. Remember, with this blocking phase, I'm not looking for specific colors. I'm looking for general shapes and mid-tone colors. You can see that's going to be a little bit green, so I'm going to lighten it up and put a little more of our ultramarine blue in there. I want to really bring out that depth that we can achieve later on. The great thing about working with these panels, it could be a negative also, but these oil colors, even though I primed this panel to where it's going to accept the oil paints, because the priming is a light priming on these panels and they are still absorbent, this first layer of foundational paint that we're putting on will go down pretty smooth and it'll dry pretty quick. That way I can get into it the next day and go ahead and painting. Also, the Liquid Original obviously helps with our dry time. I can see our camera is picking up a lot darker color than what I'm seeing here. Maybe after we finish off today, I'll post what the actual picture looks like in the real color, because it's showing up really, really dark on the camera. That's all right. We're looking for an end goal here more so than anything else. So it will look a little bit bluer, but on my eye and in person, it's definitely a lot greener than what you're seeing on the screen there. I may have to adjust my cameras in the future so you can see better what I'm seeing, because it's really, really showing up on the live screen a lot darker than what it actually is. On my eye and on real life, it's a lot greener than the color that we're actually shooting for, or than the color that you're seeing. So we're just going to pull this color down. Like I said, there is a little bit of wave action right here, which we'll translate that once we get to it. But as far as right now, we're just looking to add color to build this foundation up. And there's no particular rhyme or reason to this first block-in phase other than just getting color down and painting in the shapes, painting in direction as we see fit. As it pulls towards this, closer to this wave, we can lighten it up because the water is going to be a little bit lighter due to the fact that we're running out of depth in our scene. Obviously, the wave crashing the way it is, as we get down here, you'll be able to see that it lightens up a lot as the sun starts to come back through the wave, but also as the water depth shallows out, you'll start to see the bottom start to pull up. So this area down here is going to be one of our lightest tones that we're going to have, and that's going to be the sun hitting directly onto the white water itself. So it's okay to bring in a little bit of lighter color as we pull forward. And that's not showing up at all on the live stream. I apologize. We will get our lights right eventually one day. And once we do, you'll be able to see, because this is way greener. Not sure if you can even see that. Let me hold it up here a little bit better. See, on the up against my hand, it shows more of a greener color, but on that canvas, the way it's lit right now, you're seeing a real dark blue. But I promise you, it's definitely greener than what's showing up on the screen. A little more paint here. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll go ahead and add in this little darker green right where it belongs. Tell you what I'm gonna do. Let me see if I can adjust this backlight and see if maybe it'll help y'all get a better color. Let's see if that shows up a little bit better for you. So the water direction in this particular reference, obviously the water's coming in this way. So as we come across, there's a little bit of a wave, secondary wave shaping up right here. But all our general water direction for this piece will be going this way. In this first block-in phase, we're not going to really represent that too much. But as we build into the modeling phase, we'll start to lay in some of those different colors to where you'll be able to tell that there is a flow of direction that direction. Way past our color mix there, so let's try to get it back. A little bit of that red, and we're back. It's okay during this first block-in phase. If the colors start to get a little bit out of line, like right here, I had a little more of the blue shade through. That's fine, because that's going to be the direction the water's headed anyways. In the future, when we come in with our modeling phase and detail phase, because this is a mid-tone color, the darker colors are going to represent that water ripple, and then the lighter colors will also do that. So having little areas like this that you see here, or even in the back area here, that it looks a little bit darker than what the rest of it is, that'll be fine. We can just work that into our next modeling phase when we're actually shooting for directional changes in the water. And the same goes if you want to lighten up some areas, that'll work as well. Basically just trying to get this color laid in to where in the future we can represent the actual flow of water. By putting in the mid-tone, you're free then to express with those darker values and the lighter values depth, direction. All right. A little bit of greener area here and there doesn't hurt. Water has numerous different shades depending on the depth. I think I said last time we were together that painting water isn't really hard once you understand the first few concepts of water itself. You know, watercolor is affected by only a few different things. Obstructions in the water can affect the watercolor. Obviously, your lighting source will affect watercolor. As far as which way the light's coming, it's going to affect it a little bit. The depth, which I've stated, and then direction. Obstruction or direction the water's flowing will affect watercolor. The closer you get to the shoreline, the more it could green up a little bit. So I'm going to represent that a little bit here in our wave. Fairly new to the whole live streaming, so trying to figure out the lighting so you can see it the way I'm seeing is going to be the biggest challenge, it appears, because right now it's showing up way darker than what I actually am seeing in person. We'll figure that out along the ways. If you're watching this after the live, If you have a question, feel free to throw that out there. I generally get to the questions pretty quick. I'm more than happy to share my experience. That's the purpose of this channel, is to share my knowledge that I've gained over the past 30 years with everyone. All right, so we've gotten it down to where the water is starting to reach the wave itself. Let me flick over here to our actual reference so I can take a look. I think we're pretty good. I'm going to dig in a little bit of that greener color and bring it in right here. Looks like there's a wave starting here. So that's pretty good. Again, bring in a little bit darker color just to give y'all a reference of what we're looking at. Don't generally do this on the actual block-in phase, but let me throw in this directional so y'all can tell what I'm looking at. In the future, I'll have the reference to where you can look at it, but for right now, today, you just have to trust me that what I'm painting is to the best of the references we can get. That's my style, obviously, if you're familiar with my work. Try to get it as close as I can to the actual reference material as possible. So what I've done here, I've just added a little bit of that Prussian blue to the mix. It darkens it up a little bit. I'm doing this just for the sake of being able to display the water direction. The paint on these boards, like I said, dries super fast. So as I'm painting along, if you're an oil painter, you generally know that you get that nice smooth blend texture across. Unfortunately, with painting on these boards, or fortunately, you kind of lose some of that effect because it dries so fast. I'm willing to venture, if I touch right here, yeah, see, very little, which is perfect for my style of painting because it's going to tack up to where tomorrow when we come in, we'll be able to dig right into it without any worries of it being dry on the next layer coming across or being wet. Some of you may like to do that. Plein air style paintings obviously use the wet on wet styling a lot more. But for me, I want it to be dry as quick as possible. Coming from an acrylic background, I'm used to dry paint time. And that is one of the advantages of oil paint. It doesn't dry as fast, but when you're wanting to do layering and you want to work as quickly as possible, having it dry up and tack up the next day is a wonderful experience. Because, like I said, I can touch this right now and it's giving off very little paint. This will be fully dry because of the liquid original and because of the absorbency of the board. Tomorrow when I come back in or whenever I get back to it, it'll be fully dry. My second coat will go down smooth without any tacky resistance. And then I can just build upon these layers. Obviously, the more layers you put into the painting, the less dry time it's going to get because it's not as absorbent as that first layer. So that's about the region of where our water starts. Like I said, you can't really tell how green it is on the live version, unfortunately, but it's a nice green mid-tone. We have our little bit darker water here. We have another wave coming in here. And then now we're going to get on to this wave itself. So let me bring up our reference again. What I think I want to do, just to show you what we're working with here, I'm going to dig into that lighter area just so I can play off that to know that that's going to be my lightest tone on the canvas. It's almost going to be, eventually it will be titanium white, but for today, I'm using just a little bit of titanium white mixed into that mixture that we started with. So this is the area of the wave where The white water's showing, but the sun is not affected by the shadow of the wave itself. So this is going to be one of the brighter areas on our little scene here. So we'll just drop this off. Do a little design here. You still want to keep to that flow pattern. As you can see, I've got these little lines demonstrating the properties of the wave, but we're just going to come in here and knock this out. So I know from here to there, that's going to be my lightest color that we'll probably work with today. There'll be a little more along the way, but as far as that goes, this will be where our sun is actually hitting the white water. We can probably even lighten that up just a little bit. Remember, this is just the block in. We're not looking for specific details or anything like that. We're solely looking for shapes and mid-tone colors. So that'll probably do it pretty good for that area. Now we need to determine what we're going to paint next. Obviously, this crest of this wave with the light shining through is going to be almost a translucent turquoise, really, really light color. Not as bright as our, well, it's about the same value as our white water where the sun's not hitting it. But as we get to that area, we'll figure that out. Let's see, that might be where we're going to start now. So let me figure out the colors we're going to need. Let me bring up the chat again so I can see if anybody had a question. No questions yet, that's fine. Tell you what we're going to do, we're going to split screen this so I can see the reference and the chat at the same time. That probably will work best for us. All right. So we're shooting for that top of the wave there. Let's dig in here. So this color here with the white is looking pretty good. The only thing that we probably need to add to it is a little bit of the yellow. So we can lighten it up, make it more of a green. That looks pretty good. Let's add a little white to that mixture. It's not terribly bad. I pushed it a little bit too far. That's probably pretty good to start with there. What I've done there is just took our previous mixture, added a little white, added a little of our lemon yellow to it, and that brightened it up and gave it a little bit of a yellow tone to it. So let's dig in here. So crest of our wave, and this is probably going to show up way too dark for y'all, but I assure you it's not that dark on my screen. Showing up pretty good. Not too bad, not too bad. So let's shape out our wave here. We'll block in some of these general colors. We have some of this area in the back here. Most of this top of this wave is going to be where the actual whiteness is going to come through because it's the crashing of the wave itself. So I'm just trying to toggle in the areas that I see that apply to this color. It's almost like paint by numbers, in the fact that if you do a good drawing and have a good sketch to start with, then you can just come along with the color that you have and plug that color in where it's at on your scene. You exhaust that color, then you'll move on to the next color, and so forth and so on until you've worked your way entirely down the scene itself. So we got it crashing over here, folding over there. We have 2, 3 different actual crests. This is going to be one here. So this will come along here. You see the little hump there. Another hump there. I think that's pretty good. Let me just repeat what I have always said with regards to my painting style and painting in general. If you're shooting for a realistic landscape or seascape, the hardest thing for new or beginner painters to do is to forget trying to paint from experience. And what I mean by that is coming in here, maybe you lived on the beach, maybe you had a vacation on the beach, and you remember seeing waves. The hardest thing I've found for new painters or beginners to do is to forget what you've learned through your experience, maybe seeing this wave. And instead, what I want you to do is to paint what you see in your reference. Paint what you see in the actual picture you're trying to replicate. What that helps us with is, I know this whitewater from experience, and living in Florida is not always going to be white. So I'm going to paint it from what I see on the actual reference instead of what I see from experience in person. Painting from experience of actual seeing the reference material is going to be more of a hindrance than just painting what you see. Grabbing your reference and then painting exactly what you see from that reference. I promise you, that's the methodology that I've used over the years. And I promise you, it will work for you if you can just set your mind back a little bit and just paint from a position of, hey, I'm painting that from that reference material alone. Instead of knowledge of, hey, all grass is green or all white water is white, paint exactly what you see on the reference instead of what you've known through your life. And it works, I promise you. If you'll dig in that way, it'll be a lot better. All right, so I've added a little bit of our viridian to this color. As this wave is cresting over, we have a little difference of color here. A little bit of the light hitting, but not so much to where it's that pale color. It's still going to hold that little green because we're bouncing through here. So now I'm going to go along and try to see exactly where this color can be applied to our painting. So we have that there, we have that there. I think we can bring this down through here and up around. Maybe back in here. Let me check our chat, see if there's any questions. No questions yet, that's fine. If you are watching in the future and you have a question, by all means, make sure you throw that out there. Love answering the questions, love just sharing my information with everyone. Okay, where else can we apply this green? If I was smart, I probably would have had my reference on another device instead of having to switch back and forth, but that's okay. We'll work with it today. All right, so we got our viridian color there. We've got that. So we need to fold this over. Probably have that down in here someplace also. It looks like this general area is going to be where that water is actually folding over. It all crests up, but at a certain point, gravity takes effect and it boils itself over on top of each other. So this area can be this green color. Oh. we'll bring about the details to it later. I think that's about it. This area is going to be white with the rolling water, so we probably add a little more here. And back over here. All that's going to be white. Probably have some of this down in here. Okay. I think what would be best for the next step is go ahead and start painting some of this white water, if you will, the foam rolling up onto the face of the wave itself. That's going to be more in the shadow, so that's going to be a bluer color. I think it'd be best for us to now to try to dig into that. So I can tell from my reference, it's pretty much an ultramarine lightened up. We may have a little bit of desaturation in there, which we can just dig into our CAD red because it's almost an orange. If we push it too far to purple, that's fine. We can just bring some more blue in. That's going to be way too dark, so we'll add a little bit of white to it. It's not a terrible color to start. It's pretty good, actually. So let's go ahead and start some of these general shaped white waters. I'm going to follow this line because that's one of our dominant marks that I marked out. A little bit of liquid to it. So that starts up the wave that way. This is going to be the other one. This one is almost a vertical turn because, like I said, it's starting to fold over right through here. And actually, I can show you where the water is starting to fold over right in this area. So this, as closer you get to the actual wave folding over, the more the lines are going to be vertical. Down here, because it's still building, it's a wide swathing kind of direction. But as we go forward, these lines are going to get more vertical because, okay, now we're starting to get more gravity. Now the water's starting to fold over on itself. So a good thing to remember as you're doing that the lines won't always be as smooth stretching as what they are towards the actual crest part. And as we get in this area, this mark is a real darker color. We'll probably darken it up as we draw in there because it is more in shadow. But we'll keep following these lines across. They are a little bit longer. This one comes up and actually parts here. Does a little stretch up this. And then fades back down. And this color may even be a little bit dark, but like I said earlier, because it's the block in, we're just fine. Fine leaving it the way it is. We will come in and adjust colors after we do our block in, but for now, we're just fine. All this area is in shadow. You can already tell our bright area that we did earlier. Once this darker color comes in and it came in, I can already tell that's not going to be light enough. That's one of the advantages of putting down either your dark first or your light first. That way you can judge as you go along, okay, that's way too light or that's way too dark. Obviously, this white water is not going to be this smooth. It's going to have undulations. It's going to have all kinds of little areas where it's disturbed, little areas where it's not disturbed. But for right now, just the foundations, we're getting this color onto the canvas so we can keep plugging along. This comes along right about there. Let me see how dark that looks on the live stream. Not too terrible. That's pretty good, actually. It just seems like the top, for whatever reason, is really dark for you guys. We'll have to figure that out later, but for today, it is going to be fine. So another area here, another one of those sweeping foams. Probably has a name, but that's the name I'm going to stick with today. Another advantage of having the board, if I'm not completely happy with this block in, I can just give it an hour, come back in and completely change everything up. Because it dries so much, or so fast rather, we can come in at any point. Like right now, I can come in over that white and it really doesn't affect much of the color because it's practically dry as it is now. Now this is not going to work for obviously plain air painting or wet on wet style painting, because you want that fluidity in your in your paints. You want to be able to work quickly with it. But because this is just a block in, we're just fine. Okay, let me get a little more. We'll keep plugging along here. Now down here, we have a lot of the foam where it's actually already crashed. As you can tell with this area here, that's going to be where it's actually crashed. This water is starting to curl over. It's building all the way up, and over here it's starting to fall down. That's why we get that greener color over there. So it's just a folding wave kind of effect. So we can plug some of this in here, because it's going to be in shadow on the opposite side. And it looks like we come with one of those. Like the darkest area is through here. All right. And a little more titanium white with that bluish mixture. So we start laying in some of these other folding waves. It's folding over here, coming across into this. It's pretty good representation of what I'm talking about, the dry time. I just painted this blue, but as you can tell, it's not picking none of it up. As we drag across, that lighter colored blue is going right over top of that. So it looks like we have an area here. That's going to go like that. A little bit lighter area here. All right. A little bit of a tone change, a little more green in this bottom area here as the white water's a little greener through here. Probably good that it is that way, because it's going to give us a nice balance with the actual white water crashing right here. Let me check our chat. Any questions? No questions thus far. That's fine. Back to painting. Okay, some of this area in here is obviously in a shadow, still greenish. So we'll fold this up. It's going to have a lot of a darker green too. So we can just come through here and block this in. And later on when we do the modeling, we'll add the actual lines. And now it does lighten up as we get towards the end there. So we'll just bring that down. There we go. Same thing here. Let's grab another brush and we'll go ahead and paint some of this darker area so I can know where I'm going with it. It's going to be probably one of the darker areas in our scene, because it's in shadow. Still got to maintain our shape. We're going to drag this in and around. And obviously through here, later on, we're going to have directional. I'll put some of these in so just so you can see what we're talking about. While we're at it, we'll go ahead and dig in some of these other areas. We got a little bit of area that's outside of the foam here. And this is just adding a little bit of the Prussian blue to that previous mixture that we had. Toning it down just a little bit. Just going to give us these areas where the actual water instead of the white water is showing through. This comes this way, does one of these. We have it here also. And it actually extends all the way through here. Folding up here. Not the exact color we want, but we're not shooting for specificity as much as just big shapes, big colors. Have a little bit of the water shining through here. All right, how's that look on the live stream? Are we doing pretty good or is it looking way off? Well, pretty good still. Any questions? No questions. Moving on. Let's go ahead and bring in this darker color. Let's see, it's right here. It's definitely way too dark. That's all right, we can adjust it. As we get closer, start pulling up, I see that it lightens up, but it also gets a little more yellow to it because the sun's starting to pull through it a little bit more. See if we can represent that. Right here, that's too much. Green in that, there we go. That's not bad. Add a little more of that Prussian to it and bring it on down. Looking pretty good. So that's that. This color is going to stretch almost all the way down. We have it beyond the areas here. Some of it down here. The darkest area is going to be in the middle there because that's where the sun's not hitting it. It's in shadow, has a little bit of depth to it, but not so much where it's going to be affected by the water out beyond it. This actually is going to bubble up there. So we're going to do that. That's that. So all that needs to be painted. We have an area here. Got that. All right. One area here. That. Here's another little area here. Okay. I think for the most part, those are our areas where the water is shining through. It's in the shadow. It's not going to be as bright as this up here. And even some of this up here, as it starts to fold over, can be a little bit darker. We come in with that same color and just kind of blend that in. There we go. All right, for the most part, the rest of it's just the white water. That bluish color in the shadow. It is going to be white, but because it's in the shadow, it's going to appear darker. I'll get a little more blue. A lot of this, like I guess most water, a lot of this is only going to be represented once we start getting some of the modeling in so you can see the direction. But right now we're just giving it an expression of what's happening. And then as we go forward, we will be able to add some of that modeling. You can really start to feel the wave turning over. This is actually more green in this area. I think because it's catching a little bit of the sun over the crashing. And this all the way up. All right. A lot of this, without the detailing or without the modeling phase, just appears to be just that foam bluey color. Once we come in with the actual modeling and be able to express some of the intricacies of what's going on, this will tighten up a lot and you'll be able to see. Right now I'm just trying to get rid of that orange undertone. Looking good. This is going to be up here. We fold that down. So that is that. We need to come across here into here. And we'll bring it down. Any comments in the chat? Let me take a look. No comments as of yet. That's okay. Remember, if you're watching this later and you have a question, feel free to drop it in the chat or in the comment section. I love to answer questions. No question is a dumb question unless you don't ask it. And then only then does it become not so smart because you've missed the opportunity to ask a question. This is why we're doing these in-studio kind of sessions, live streams. Maybe you're a beginner, maybe you have a little experience, but you really want to get into seascape painting. Feel free to drop that question. This still goes over. This goes up. This rounds off eventually, but I have to wait till our modeling to get that right. Okay, we'll go ahead and grab some more white, add it to this darker blue color that we had established. Let's block in some of this whiter areas. Shooting for a whiter color. So here we're going to have the white water. I jokingly all the time say that I'm not sure why they call it white water because it's never white. In fact, it probably doesn't even look remotely white on the screen for you. Oh yeah, okay, so it's a lighter blue, but it's coming down off of that. Remember I said that it's because it's cresting in two different spots. One here, which is probably the previous wave, and then over here, we're going to have two areas where it's going to be lighter and wider because of the crashing water. And this takes it all the way down. I can tell from the reference, it's definitely some areas catching the sun on the side over here. But if we want to save our brightest tones till the last, keeping our tonal values in the middle for now, and when we come in with actual titanium white, it's going to explode in this corner. I'll just demonstrate to you here. This is just a tip of titanium white. As you can tell, it really is going to pop off the canvas once we bring it in. But for right now, we'll just leave it at that. Okay. Other areas that of interest. We have the other crest right here, which is folding over like this. In actuality, it's got a little bit here and a little over here. We'll work on those areas later. Right now, we're just getting colors and shapes. Has a little bit of fold through here. A lot of fold here. Remember I said there was kind of a few different humps in this scene. Here's one of the humps. The other hump is right here, but it's kind of bellowing over on itself right there. In this area, looks like it's going to be a little more greenish in color. So we'll bring it in over here. A more greenish, probably due to the fact that it's catching the sun. But it's folding over and splashing it around through here. And this eventually will fold under. That's not half bad. A lot of folding over and maneuvering through here. This lines down, comes into this. Have a crest fold there. This is going to be here, here. Fold in here. This. Like that. Not too bad. All right, let's just finish off here with the remaining areas. This will have to be extremely lighter once we come along, but for right now, that looks pretty good. Shadow coming up under the wave. Sun's coming from the back, obviously. This is the area that's not going to be in the shadow. So this is going to be one of our lightest colors, almost as light as some of this breaking water over here. But let's go ahead and dig in and finish this block in off. Got some of that yellow, some of that white. That might be a little too much. We'll blue it down a little bit. Oh yeah, that's what we want. So this was here. Comes up through there. This is here. It folds down there. We got it rippling and folding in here. Over here. Holding there. And spout of it there. A lot of it here actually. And then more over here. Actually, this color works itself right down as that crashing over, but for right now, we'll leave it like that. And this color will be in other areas. I'm just trying to outline the areas that I see. In fact, it actually has a little spread that jets out like this. For now, we'll leave it like that. Let's blue this mixture up a little bit. We'll finish off the last areas. And I think we're going to call this a live stream. We'll have it blocked in, and then the next time you see this painting, we'll be into the modeling phase. I'll go ahead and put all that in. What's it look like? Any questions? No questions yet. That's fine. Looking good so far, I think. This is going to be here. All right, that area. This area goes up. All right, get some more green in here. Finish this area off right here. That's a pretty good start. Let me lighten this up a little bit. Just because I want it to be brighter. There we go. There we go. I think it's a pretty good start for our first setting at this. Like I said, it's just a block in. A few things to remember with block ins is the fact that we're looking for mid-tone colors. We're looking for directions and big shapes. We're just looking for something to start the next wave of layers. We've established direction of our wave here, direction of the backwater here. We've got a good flow of where the lights are, where the darks are at in our scene. So the next time we come into this painting, I'll be able to really emphasize some of the direction of the individual sections of the wave, some of the individual darks and lights of the back area, the white waters. This is a good start. This is probably how I would start. Well, it is how I would start if I weren't on the stream, building a foundation for the next layer. So I'm happy to have y'all here. Once again, if you're not dropped a question into the comment section, feel free to do so. Once again, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, we'd love to have you as part of that as well. My whole establishing point is with this channel is to express and to share with everyone my experience that I've gained over the past 30 years. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel, feel free to do so. If you'd like to drop a comment, do that also. If you're watching this stream and we're not to 500 followers yet, drop a comment for a chance to win a Giclée printing of your choosing. We're giving away a free Giclée print to a random person who drops a comment into these videos until we hit 500 subs. Once we hit 500 subscribers, we'll go ahead and give that away under a random draw. So if you're not part of that yet, I'd love to have you. You're welcome to drop that. If you want to see what's available as far as the Giclée prints, check out lancehendersonart.com. You can see the full gallery through there, and you can go ahead and pick out one. Maybe you'll be the lucky winner. But I think that's going to do it for now today. Look like we're a little over an hour, so that's pretty good. Hope to see y'all next time. If not through live with this painting, you'll definitely get a video on the follow-up of this painting to where we take this from this stage all the way to a finishing point and when we sign it and everything. So thank you all for joining. We're glad to have you here, and we'll see you next time. Happy painting.